everyone. Welcome back to another episode of my podcast. I'm Caroline Chen and I'm a rising senior in high school. Today I had the wonderful opportunity to speak with Miss Souza, a biology teacher at Crystal Springs Uplands School. I hope you enjoy our conversation. Hi, Miss Souza. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. And before we kind of get into it, I wanted to ask you a little bit about yourself. So I wanted to ask you, what sparked your initial interest in scientific research and education, and did you know you want to pursue either or both if you were?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So nobody else in my family interested in science. So I really didn't have any role models within my own family, but I did have a very supportive grandfather that, saw that I was interested in how things worked. And, he got me um, I had a basement full of animals, basically, mostly insects. Okay. And I would
Okay, let's hear what animals are there.
like crickets, praying mantises, yeah,
But they were all
beetles.
contained. They weren't like run
Yeah, yeah,
in the
yeah.
basement. Okay. Wait, that's
But
so
I would like research how their life cycles worked. I would keep journals, like documenting their observations and progress,
Mhm.
Um, things like that. And all the little science kits, he would buy them, and I would think they were so cool. Like I learned how to solder things. Like it was really fun. So yeah, I guess, you know, I just had this innate interest, and I was lucky enough to have a grandparent that cultivated that by just, giving me the time and space and tools to play around with it. So,
That's great.
um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Did you just know throughout high school that you wanted to go into research when you went to college? Or
I think initially I wanted to be a veterinarian,
oh, wow.
actually.
Wait, that makes
Yeah.
okay.
Which is funny because this summer actually next week, I'm going to be doing my wilderness first responder training.
Oh wow.
Um, yeah,
Wait,
I did.
what does that entail? Like,
Yeah, so it's like normally it's a 2-week in-person program. You can also do what I'm doing is like there's an online course and then you have a 5-day in person. But basically, these are for like trip leaders or, I'm mainly doing it because I take students on trips, right? And sometimes we go into the wilderness. So I thought I would feel a lot more comfortable doing that if I had some wilderness first aid certification. I
mm,
did my 3-day wilderness first aid or yeah, it was a 3-day wilderness first aid training a couple of years ago. And then when that lapsed, I was like, oh, what's the next step?
mm.
So it's cool. It's kind of like applied biology, right?
Wow. Wait, that sounds kind of intense though, like wilderness training.
It's
Did you have to
pretty
go into the
intense.
forest to do it? Or
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
wow.
like the 3-day training, and I imagine this training is going to be very similar, is like you learn about symptoms, emergency care, what are the criteria for evacuation, right? How do you stabilize a patient until they can be evacuated properly? And then it's super fun what they do. So half the class pretends to be a patient, and then the other half pretends to like come upon this person
Oh,
because 90% of the time it's an individual that has by themselves that got into trouble. And like you pretend to like see them, do the initial patient assessment, decide if they should be evacuated or not, administer emergency first aid, and then the scene ends, right? But it's like a very intense scenario.
yeah, it feels
Um,
real.
yeah, yeah. So it's kind of cool to like circle all the way back, right? Because like initially, I was like, oh, I love animals. Oh, I love science,
Yeah,
veterinarian, right? And
yeah.
then I don't know if you've looked at it, but like there's only like a little over a dozen, maybe 16, maybe more now, veterinarian schools in the country.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Very, very low acceptance, and they're super expensive. So I was like, okay, maybe I can do something else. And then that's where I learned about PhD programs, right? Where you can be paid to do research, and it opens up a world of possibility, right? Lots of things you can do with the PhD. And I was like, oh, okay, that sounds really cool. So that's kind of the winding path I took.
That's so
So,
cool. Thanks for sharing. And kind of
mhm,
building off of that question, when you actually went into research from doing research
mhm,
in your undergrad to doing your research at Berkeley to even co-author
mhm.
a paper in Nature, which I still think is absolutely nuts. And I was wondering if you could like kind of describe what your journey was look like. Your journey, sorry, I cannot talk today. Your journey research looked like.
Yeah. So, let's see. I think this is even more important now. But it's really important to do research as an undergraduate or even as a high schooler if you can to like just to figure out if it's something you want to do,
Yeah.
right? And I know you have some experience in
Yeah.
this and right how like
Yeah.
labs can be different, right? And just like so when I was in undergrad, literally as soon as I got onto campus, I was like, okay, I got to figure out if I still want to do the veterinarian thing or if I want to do this basic research thing. And I think I had been at school for a month when I started emailing professors.
Just
And, sorry, what?
cold emailing.
Yes, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Kind of like what I've,
Yeah.
telling you guys to do.
Mhm.
But I did that right away. And I was very transparent. I was like, I do not know which one I want to be in. Luckily, I was at Washington State University, which is one of the few veterinarian schools, right? So a lot of the professors that I was talking to were in the veterinary medicine program, right? They were either veterinarians that got into research or they were like researchers interested in veterinary medical problems. So it was like the perfect place basically for me to like figure out which branch I wanted to go. Um, and so yeah, I'm cold emailing a bunch of people and I actually got into three different things right away.
Wow, that's
Like
a really good
yeah.
hit rate from what I've heard from other people.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, they weren't big. Like one was actually working in a lab. Like that was kind of like my main thing,
Mhm.
working on equine infectious anemia virus, which is kind of similar to HIV in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
Um, and can be a big issue with horses. And because I had some horse experience, I was also helping this other veterinarian that was looking at the effects of like MRIs on navicular disease, which is a disease in the horse's feet. Yeah. And but that was so easy. I was just like handling horses, but
Yeah.
it was still
You go
good because
riding horses? Like,
yeah. Yeah.
wow.
So that aforementioned grandfather was also a cowboy in his younger days.
Wow.
So yeah, I rode a lot of horses
That's
back
great.
in the day.
Yeah, horses
Um,
scare me a lot. Like, I've never been near one before, but they
they're
seem,
big.
yeah.
Yeah. And if you don't know their body language, they feel unpredictable, right?
Hmm.
So, but yeah, so because I was good at handling horses, I was able to like be a handler for this person's,
Hmm.
so yeah. And then, gosh, I forget what the third one was, but it was also like a once a week thing. So anyway, it was cool because like I kind of got to see things. What?
Doing all three at once, like all at one time.
Yeah, 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 yeah. While also taking classes, while
That's,
also like trying to make friends, right? It was a lot. It was
um,
a lot.
that's really impressive. Yeah.
Had a lot more energy back then. So, but yeah, it was good. Um, but yeah, so kind of got to see what it was like to be a veterinarian researcher.
Hmm.
And then I think just the lab stuff interested me more. Like that was the first time I'd ever been in a lab.
Hmm.
I really liked, learned how to set up a lab notebook, how to run experiments, how to keep track of my observations. All of my observations beforehand had been very like ad hoc, or what you do in high school, right? The lab, kind of the pre like a canned lab, versus like
Like given to you. You have like a
exactly.
time.
There's like a beginning and an end,
Yeah.
right?
You know what's
Versus
coming out of it.
exactly, versus being in an actual lab, you're kind of constantly changing how you approach the problem
Mhm.
based on the technology you have, based on like things you learn in research, like what other labs are doing, right? It was a very fun, exciting place to be.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, so that first lab that I was a part of, the professor actually moved away after the end of my second year. And
Mhm.
because she was moving away, I was like, oh no, I really want to keep staying in a lab, but she's moving. And then she was the one that recommended I look up summer programs, which is how I ended up at Berkeley for 2 summers. So I did 2 summer research programs at Berkeley, loved the first summer so much, I came back the second summer. And then and then I joined another lab before I left at Wazoo, and then I published some papers there. And
Mhm.
then um, the whole interviewing process for grad school was crazy. Like it was,
Mhm.
um, went to like 7 different universities and
Wow. Did you
so
have to
much
go like
fun.
across the country to most?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
I think I got accepted to Rockefeller, which is a private research university, which is a little unusual, but really cool. And they're unique because they accept you based on your application, and then you go to the interview to like you are as a candidate are interviewing the university to see if you want
Oh.
to go.
Uh-huh.
It's backwards,
That's
right?
so cool. It's like seeing if like you're in the position of power. You're like, do you want to
Yeah.
be? That sounds
Mhm.
nice. Rather,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a fun safety to have, right? Like, and I think they're the one of the only places that does that. Um, so anyway, they were cool. Yeah, so I went to Rockefeller, went to the Midwest, and they were all interesting. Like lots of, it really depended on what I wanted to work on,
Mhm.
and where I wanted to live.
Uh-huh.
Um,
And you were
I-
interviewing for specific labs in the universe.
mm, yeah, I mean, they were all slightly different, but I will say that every one of these interviews was like a weekend, like 48 hours, right?
Uh-huh.
And for example, at UCSF, they lined up like 7 researchers, bam, 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 30 minutes back to back.
Wow,
And
that's
you had to like talk to each one. Yeah.
and were they asking
Um,
you about like technical things?
mhm.
And what were the questions like? If
Okay, I think one of the craziest interviews I had was with Dan Portnoy at Berkeley. And it was funny because I knew him because remember, I had done my summer research at Berkeley, and it was one of the universities that I ended up interviewing at, of course. And so I knew him because there were like 3 immunology labs that kind of all met with each other, and I was a part of the other lab. So he was, kind of like a neighboring. And what he does is he gets his paper that kind of made him famous, like the original science research paper, and he asked me to read it just like on the spot, like here, read my listeria paper.
that sounds
Yes,
scary.
it was so, and I mean, you know how I have you guys read primary research articles in
Unless
class,
you take
right?
your class are going to be ready for that interview.
Yeah. So he was like, read it. I was like, okay, we have a 30, 45 minute interview. I can't remember how long it was, but it was somewhere around there. And so I'm like scanning the paper. And then he asked me, do you have any questions? And I was like, all right, let's go. I have I read the paper. And even though I was familiar with his work, I hadn't like ever sat down and read his paper, right? Um, and so and then had a really nice discussion about like scientific questions about the paper. And I really like that one. Most of the professors, what they would do is they would, talk about the research in their lab, and then they would always ask, like, "Do you have any questions? What interests you?" Or maybe they would ask, "How would you approach this problem?" Or "What are some ideas you have to like further this research?" Right? All very much like thinking on your feet, kind of applying what you know to something new, right?
Mhm. Yeah, I
So,
see. Mhm.
mhm,
And
yeah.
after you did research, like, so you knew when you did your undergrad that you wanted to, were you thinking of going into like academia or like what were your plans back then? Did
Oh
you?
yeah. I was keeping it really open.
Uh,
A lot of my friends in my grad school class, were very much, I want to be in academia, I want to have my own lab, and a lot of them do.
mm,
Other people were like industry all the way.
original.
Other people just, like I have friends. I don't know. I think there might be a couple of other people that also went into teaching. Um, I think I was one of the first, though. Trying to remember. A couple people went and started their own businesses.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah. Oh, one person, very interesting. He's like a venture capitalist, but with oncology, right? His research was in cancer, and he
Mhm.
was always really interested in like economics and stuff. And so now he does like, um, basically bets on which drugs are going to make it, basically.
Yeah.
Um,
You see how much you can do with like a background in science. You can pick so many different options. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I think what drew me to teaching is, I was kind of like, oh, what do I do? My PI, my principal investigator, my boss, he let me teach at University of San Francisco State University. I taught their pre-med program and their microbiology classes. And that was really fun. As an adjunct professor, right? He basically let me be in the lab and also be an adjunct for a little bit,
Hmm.
just to see if I wanted to be in that environment, which was very kind to let me like experiment. And then I did a summer program with Rising. So these were high schoolers that had just graduated and they were doing summer research before going to their colleges, right? Um, and that was so much fun. I have to say, like compare because at that point I had taught undergraduates for 2.5 years, and then I did this summer program with high school students or freshly graduated high school students. We were working in a lab also at UCSF. Kind of funny how it all works out, right? We were like one level up from my old lab. But so it was a group of like 10 high school students, and our goal was to get into it was iGEM, so International Genetically Engineered Machine, so we were doing like a very intense like research project before going to this competition. Um, and yes, it was so much fun. Like I found that younger students are so much more like flexible and interesting to teach and just fun. Like you guys make me laugh every day. I think I've said that before. And so, and not that I don't love teaching undergraduates as well. Like there's a different, I think it's just difference in where people are, right?
Yeah.
Um,
It's like
as an undergraduate. Oh, sorry.
is it like the style or like just like the way you interact with them?
I guess, yeah. I guess undergraduates, especially pre-med undergraduates, tend to be very driven and focused,
Mhm.
and there isn't as much time to have community,
Mhm.
right? There isn't as much time to like get to know students and teachers and to like create like a fun place to like learn, you know. Teaching undergrad was very much like, okay, I need to learn this or I'm gonna fail and I blah blah blah, all this
Very
stuff.
high pressure, like
Yes, yeah, yeah. Not that high school isn't either,
yeah.
but
No.
it's different. It's different. It feels different, you
Yeah.
know? And I love being at a school, especially a small school, and like all of us together as a community, like we get to know each other, right? We get to like um and I get to watch you guys grow. So
And
yeah.
so you would say when you first started teaching high schoolers or undergrad, that's when you first realized like you wanted to teach rather than just do research as a whole.
Yes, yeah, definitely. I think my PI was very gracious in letting me experiment and try that out. And I know I wasn't the only graduate student that got to like try something new, like I think UCSF is awesome for that. Like if a graduate student feels like, they want to maybe try something entrepreneurial, like they have a whole thing, like a whole program where people can do that, right? You can um, try those different things, right? They recognize that being in academia or being a researcher is not the only path, right? There's lots of different things that you can do with biology or science in general.
Hmm.
So,
I see. So you would say essentially you knew from when you were young that you wanted to pursue science, but your passion for education kind of just like came along the way.
yeah, it kind of developed. Yeah, I think one thing you get to do, well, I mean, you have experience with this, right? Is sharing your science with audiences,
Yeah.
right? Like, I love that. I love going to conferences and talking about the poster and what we've done and that kind of stuff. but I found um, teaching undergrad got a little bit more. It was awesome to like be able to kind of guide people through lots of different things. And then high school was even better, right? Because not only do you have that, but you also have the community too.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
And from when you were teaching at UCSF to when you're teaching at Crystal right now, like throughout that entire
Mm,
journey, have there been any particular like moments or things that you did that kind of shaped the way you approach education now?
yeah. I think I've been very lucky in that all of my experiences have kind of mm, informed they kind of inform how I teach now, right? I have this experience of what it's like to go through graduate school. I have this experience of what it's like to be in a lab, right? And I feel like kind of all of them together make it possible for me to be a you know, a valuable, hopefully, teacher for people that are interested in going into that world, right? I don't think there was any. I mean, we already talked about some of them, like doing that summer program with high schoolers. Like, if I hadn't done that, I don't know if I would be working with high school students, right? At the time, it was like, oh, there's this thing. I kind of want to try it. It seems interesting. I've never worked with high school students before. And then I just tried it, and then it turned out to be amazing, right? Um, so yeah, I just kind of kept opportunities open and went with what felt right at the time. And I'm really glad because I ended up at a really great place.
Yeah,
So,
that's so great. And I'd say, based off my interactions with my classmates, like your class definitely helped a lot of people discover that they wanted to do research or science. And I think just like the way you run it is like so unique and honestly really impactful on high schoolers who are kind of figuring out what they want to
mhm.
do with their lives. Like, or like,
Yeah,
not like that, or like figuring out what they're interested in.
yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Mhm. And like I was also wondering because before you taught at Crystal, you taught at a like large public school,
Mhm.
correct? And I was wondering what's like the main difference between these two schools and like how have
Oh,
you
yeah.
like shifted the way you approached teaching, if you have.
Yeah. Well, I think the big difference is you guys, right? The students, right? Um, And that was the challenge, like a good challenge coming from public school to Crystal, right? Um, I found that you guys were so fast, which is awesome, right? You just really, really, and maybe it's because I teach elective classes, of which I'm very lucky. That the students in elective classes generally are like really excited to learn, right?
Yeah, like they
Um,
picked to be in your class. It's like they
mhm.
wanted to do this. Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. Whereas at my public school, I taught both ninth grade biology and biotech. So definitely the biotech classes and AT bio classes are more similar in that regard. Like the students are really excited to learn, right? Um, but because our classes are a lot smaller,
Yeah.
um, and because you guys get such a great foundation from our ninth grade biology teachers, right? Like our ninth grade biology curriculum is closer to an AP biology curriculum than most. I
Yeah.
would say the foundation is set, right? So when you guys like walk in, you guys are familiar with all that. So I was like, wow, how can I challenge these students, right? Because I don't want to bore you guys by just going over all the basics again when it's so easy to just go back and review those if you need it. Um, so yeah, a lot faster, really great foundation that I can build off of, and just a natural willingness and curiosity to go deep into problems, right? And I was also influenced heavily by the exploratorium, right? So while I was at that public high school, I was also given the opportunity to train at the exploratorium for 2 years as a young science teacher, right? And then do something called the Summer Science Institute, where we spend 3 weeks just doing all exploratorium stuff. And so that kind of inquiry-based learning is really what I feel is kind of that and being able to read and communicate peer-reviewed articles are like the foundations of my class. Like those are the two things that I feel are the most important,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Um,
And just wondering, like, what was the type of stuff you did at the Exploratorium? Because from like
mhm.
all I knew was that it was a museum because I've only been there
I
because
know.
like what else did you get to, like what did you get to do there?
Yeah. So, thing I really like about Exploratorium is they think it's very valuable to be a student and in order to be a good teacher, right? And so a lot of the modules that we were learning, you would kind of, we called them hats. You would put your student hat on first and kind of go through the experience as a student would. And then you put on your teacher hat and discuss, okay, what could have been better? What could, and they just have so many amazing things that and I still go, like I go twice a year to kind of like re-up. So they put out like a bunch of new units or new classes or new ideas or curriculum that they've put together. And then I go there on a Saturday morning, once in the fall, once in the spring, and we run through it, right? As a group of teachers, the morning, like the first part of the morning, you're a student kind of going through the activities. Second half, you're a teacher thinking about how the ideas could have flowed better, right? How we could modify the experiments to be better, that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I kind of, or like, I don't know, I don't think I can speak to it on the same level, but I kind of resonated with like putting yourself in the student's shoes because
Mhm.
over the past year I had to teach a bunch of second graders, man,
Yeah.
as a TA, and then I was a TJ to like a older teacher, and then
Mhm.
like by the like first day of class I realized like this teacher is very influent in English, and I feel
Mhm.
because I went to the Chinese school that I was teaching at, and then like
Mhm.
it shifted a lot where most of the students aren't native speakers. So there was like no
Mm.
connection between what words were coming out of the teacher's mouth and what the students were able to understand. So they
Yeah.
had to like redesign the entire curriculum as a TA while like working with the teacher, and that was an
Wow.
experience. But I kind of had to like put myself in the students' shoes. It's like, how do I get there? Like, what interests second graders? Like,
Mhm.
I feel like
Exactly.
or like putting in like what like brain rot was very helpful. It's yeah, like I'd
That's
be
awesome.
like, oh, like this is the word for big, and then they draw it out, and then they draw like a huge like brain rot character. I don't know. They were very into it, but it's just like, yeah, putting yourself in the student's shoes. Sorry, I'm like
No,
rambling.
no, no. That's
I know
that's the most important thing though,
that
right?
was something that like really made them because I feel like at the beginning they were very vocal in how they didn't want
Mhm.
to be there and how they really wanted to go home. But because their parents
Yeah.
to Chinese school, but I feel like as the school year went on, being able to like make them enjoy what they were learning
Mhm.
definitely through
Yeah, finding what engages students
yeah.
is the most important thing.
Yeah.
Like going back to that previous question, what was the difference, right? What engaged a student in this classroom is totally different what engages a student in this classroom,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So,
And definitely like the age difference like
mhm.
is a big part. And yeah, going back to what you were saying about the exploratorium, just like
Mhm.
another follow-up on that, because I noticed from taking your class this year, a lot of our what we did was through like it's called like BABEC or
Baybeck, yep. So that's another partner that I learned through.
yeah,
Mhm.
and is that related to the exploratorium? Or I was just wondering if you could speak a bit about that.
They're both, so the Exploratorium, right, has this whole umbrella training
Mhm.
science teachers, not just in the Bay Area, but all over the country, right? So Baybeck, gosh, hold on, they've changed their name a couple times. I believe it is the Bay Area Biotech Education Consortium now. Hold on. Again, they've changed their name a couple of times.
That's
Um, yeah, it's funny how it changed. Or no, no, it's biosciences. Oh gosh.
but it's the same acronym,
It's the same acronym, same company. Yeah.
just different
Anyway.
representatives.
Yeah. So Bayback, right? What they do is so Bayback was actually started, right? Well, not started by, but was greatly influenced and helped by the biotech teacher who originally um, not convinced, but maybe he convinced me to try the summer program,
Oh,
right, to
really?
go into high school science.
Wow.
So yeah, it's kind of like a crazy mix of like
Yeah.
people. Um, so anyway, he was very influential, and he was the one that was like, "You should try high school students teaching science. I think you would like it." So anyway, Bayback was kind of one of his passions, and basically they help train science teachers all over the Bay Area about biotechnology. Right? You think about a lot of like a lot of science teachers that don't have a research background, this is very hard, right? Being able, like, think if you've been teaching for 30 years and now there's this whole new field, right? That like there's all this new stuff, all these new techniques that make up biology and biotechnology now can be daunting, right? And so they spend a lot of time training teachers, like how do you micropipette? How do you set up a lab? How do you do this? And I really love using their curriculum because they have the reagents and all that stuff already aliquoted and ready to go. Like it's, and then they also have the curriculum, but I tend to modify it with stuff from the exploratory. It's like there's a whole hodgepodge of things, right? So I take what they have, right, modify it a little bit with some exploratorium stuff, add some of my stuff,
It's
create
like setting
something
up an
new.
experiment, like kind of like
Yeah.
it's confusing and putting it all together.
Yeah, yeah. So like when I design my classes, I'm always thinking, okay, what is the anchoring lab or anchoring phenomenon I want you guys that I think you guys are going to think is engaging or interesting, right? What's going to drive you through that unit? And then on top of that, I'm also layering like the ability to understand primary research papers. So if you look at if you think back to AT biology and you think back on the whole year, right? There was kind of this spiraling effect of skill, right? I kind of tried to spiral the skill as you guys were going along.
Those kind of
Sorry?
everything kind of like builds off the thing before, like
Yeah,
there's a correlation kind of.
yeah, yeah. And I'm lucky because biology is all interconnected anyway, right? So anyway, there's a lot that goes into it, right? I'm like spiraling your guys's micropipetting and basic biotech skills
Yeah, and
with
also
reading skills,
yeah, like
with,
reading skills, like going from
yeah,
like going through papers without notebook LM and then like learning how to harness
mhm,
notebook LM. It's like stuff like that that's like kind of
exactly.
go off the previous thing you did.
If you remember, you started with a review and then you guys went to, remember, we did the Ig Nobel research
Oh
papers and
yeah.
did a journal club outline. Then you built up to doing an actual journal club, right? It just, first was a long one, then it was a short one, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And I was wondering because one of the highlights of your class was kind of like mastering how to use Notebook LM, which is kind of like a very useful, like Mr. Aniput calls it closed sourced AI. It's like not like the
Mhm.
chatbot. And I was wondering, like, as an educator, what are your thoughts on AI and like
Mhm.
how do you think we should be approaching it?
Yeah. So yeah, big question here. So, so I was very intentional with you guys, as you said, to like introduce it at the very end,
Mhm.
right? Because I think it's really important that you guys are able to figure out the primary research question, figure out the major experiments, do all that without AI first,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
Because I think the issue with AI is it gives a lot of people the illusion of competency,
Oh yeah.
right? So and I've been trying to be very open and understanding that this is going to change our landscape in ways that we've never, and as an educator, I'm trying to prepare you guys for that future, right? And it's changed everything basically.
Mhm.
Um, and I really do think that AI is an extremely powerful tool if used well,
Yes.
right? I think
Mhm.
it's really important that students figure out how to do things without AI first, right? And then learn how to use AI appropriately. Because otherwise, you get into this valley of people that like think they know what they're doing, but they don't actually know what they're doing, right? They take everything as fact, even though it is not fact,
Yeah.
right?
One thing I've learned through like both myself and my like observing my peers, it's like very easy to like AI is really good at making you feel like you know, or like it's easy to
Hmm.
become completely dependent on it without having the
Yeah.
self-confidence that you're being so dependent on it. It's
Hmm.
like I've seen people just like literally like plug things into Gemini that they could have easily done themselves. And it's like, where is
Yeah.
the cognitive process going? And like the worst thing is throughout the entire process, they're not realizing like
Hmm.
thinking at all throughout any of this. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to stop and think
Mhm.
before you like run to AI,
Mhm.
right? And in science, it's really important that you have those basic, like critical thinking skills to be able to like think about, okay, what is the central question here? How did they go about it? Did it make sense how they went about it? Does the method make sense, right? Could
Because
the
AI
methods been
can't,
improved?
like, in the end, AI can't design a wet lab experiment. Like it
Mhm.
has to come from you. Or like maybe it can.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean at this point it probably could, right?
yeah.
But as a researcher, as an experimenter, still need to be able to figure out like, okay, um, according to my priorities, according to my technical skill and what is available, right? What is possible, right?
Mhm.
What can be done, right? And that just takes experience, right? That takes time. Um, so yeah, and also I have. So what was very interesting, the way that we closed out cognitive neuroscience this year, there has been I think I was okay. There's been an explosion of research now on the cognitive effects of AI um, on the brain, and some of it is a little scary, I have to admit. So, and again, as to how, and so that's how we ended the cognitive neuroscience class. Actually, it was really fun. So I had students pick some of the stuff that had just been published in the last couple of years, right? Um, they had to pick one where yeah, these papers where they had like control groups, the AI users versus non-AI users. I loved it because every student kind of picked something that interested them. Like some students were looking at something that they're calling AI psychosis. That's like not the official term yet, but
Is
you
that
know,
like what?
yeah. So there were several case studies,
Mhm.
one at UCSF actually, where patients under not just the influence of AI, but also like severe sleep deprivation. They've already been diagnosed with like ADHD or, schizophrenia or other conditions. But they basically got into this like really crazy delusional loop, believed that they were talking to their past brother, right? It was just all this crazy stuff. And there are more and more of these case studies that are surfacing now. One student went into that. Another student was
It's
looking
like,
at AI's impact on creativity,
yeah.
which is a really interesting study.
Mhm.
Um, other students were looking at how AI and medical imaging, like, is it better or worse than an actual human doctor to be able to diagnose these things? It's been very cool. There's just been an explosion of research now looking at how AI impacts us cognitively.
Yeah,
Um,
sure. And
and Mhm.
wait, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I know we're kind of going over time.
Yes, yes, yes.
Is that okay with you with your schedule? I just wanted to
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
project.
Good. Totally good.
Okay, so I can keep
Mhm.
talking. Okay, you're all
Yeah.
good. Okay, I just wanted to double check in case you had something afterwards. I didn't want to hold you up.
Yeah.
Sorry. So AI, yeah, AI impacts us cognitively. That's what you're saying.
Yeah. So and we already have a lot of research from phones, right? Like how they've been designed to like hijack our dopamine reward systems, that kind of stuff. Um, so there's a lot of research coming out now that does make me a little bit nervous about introducing AI too early
For
in
sure.
education,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Um,
And Yeah, I think it's really concerning seeing how like accessible it is
Hmm. And
too.
how, as you were saying, dependent some
Yeah.
people can
Like
get if before they can learn on their or think on their own,
for sure.
basically. So,
Personally, when I was a middle schooler, my parents put me into this math tutoring thing called Russian math. I don't know if you've heard of
hmm
it before. And this was during COVID, so I was like,
hmm
what, like a fifth grader. And then basically I would just like do other stuff on the computer every single time during class.
hmm
I paid no attention to class. And then
Yeah.
when it came time for homework, I'd found this website. I think it's called like Brainly. So then I'd copy paste every single question into, and it would give me the
Mm-hmm.
answer. And then I did zero learning because I could just get the answers. And back
Yeah.
then, it was like actually a really challenging process because I had to like find specific websites that had the same answer. I had to like fact check, and it was a whole yeah, I got good at it after a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
concerning
And
because if I had had AI when I was that age and it was just so easy to just get the answer, like that would
mhm.
have been so insanely like detrimental to
Yeah, yeah.
like
And I mean, it's just, it's the way the brain works, right? We would rather be doing other things,
yeah,
right?
especially like younger kids
Than
don't
something hard.
yeah,
Yeah.
and younger kids don't really have the maturity to realize like not even younger, like middle schoolers even like
hmm
when I was a middle schooler, I would not have had the ability like the self-awareness to realize that I was like ultimately shortcutting my learning process.
hmm
Yeah. And speaking of cog neuro, I'm currently
hmm
taking a psychology class about like how people think,
mm
and it's so cool. And I was wondering,
Yeah.
cog neuro, do you guys approach it more from a biology perspective or a psych?
Mm.
Yeah, I was wondering if you could speak a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I have been trying hard because my background is, of course, like molecular biosciences, right? Of which there is a lot in cognitive neuroscience. So that is my what I am comfortable with, right? So neurons and signaling cascades and action potentials and stuff. So the first part of the year is setting up kind of the biology, right? Neuroanatomy, what parts of the brain do what, like that kind of stuff. But I have been working really hard to incorporate more psychology. Um, I think, and with the aid of AI, I was able to build out these units a lot faster than I would have been able to otherwise, right? So started a new thing where I call it bioethics in gosh, what exactly do I call it? I think you can tell I'm in summer mode because I don't remember. But anyway, where students act like they're on an internal review board and they are assessing psychological experiments, right? So they're like, is this going to be okay to run? And kind of thinking about it from in that way. So I am trying to actively incorporate more psychology. So.
Yeah, sure. And
Mhm.
I feel like after I'm like halfway through my psychology course.
Mhm.
I'm taking my midterm next Tuesday, which is a little bit scary. But I feel like now I can like I don't know, I feel like everyone should take this course because
It's
now
so
you
good.
see the world through a different lens. It's like, oh, that's
Mhm.
reducing the sunk cost fallacy or like you it's
Yes.
like stuff like that. Like you become more self-aware and you can
hmm
understand other people's biases more. And I don't know, I
Yeah.
think psychology is super cool now. But sorry, that's my own
No,
little.
no, no. Like the first unit we do is called practical neuroscience, where we talk about like why our brains do things, right? Like how do you motivate your brain in order to be able to focus on something you definitely don't want to focus on, right?
Mhm.
Things like that. How do you kind of trick your brain into being able to like study for longer than you thought you could, that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah. And like
hmm
speaking of psychology, because the professor is a psychology professor,
hmm
she knows how to like make us absorb the material. Like at the end of every single lecture, she puts a
uh
quiz that has 10 questions. And then
Yeah.
so like you're forced to pay attention to it. And she's so funny in her lectures. Like she'll put in like crazy jokes, like things to get
Mhm.
our attention. And it's just like, I don't know, she knows what she's doing. Like she knows the
That's
psych.
awesome.
Yeah. And yeah, that's so interesting because I wish I could have taken your cog neuro class.
Aw.
But it just would not fit in my
There's
schedule.
so many good classes at
Yeah.
Crystal. Like, yeah. You
Mhm.
got to pick and choose for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's so many classes that I would have loved to take, but just couldn't fit. And yeah, thank you for sharing about the Cognero stuff. I think that's a good way to
Mhm.
kind of like give me a glimpse of what it was, even though yeah. And I had, just to wrap things up, I had one
Mhm.
final question for you, which is like if you could go back in time and tell your high school self one thing you know today after all your like extensive experience, both in
Yeah.
education, what would it be? And with, sorry, and then like as building off of that, like what message would you give to high schoolers or just students in general interested in pursuing research as a
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I was actually thinking about this ever since you sent the questions. I was like, what would I tell? Because looking back, I I have very few regrets, right? It's like even though I had like a very winding path to get where I was,
Mhm.
all of those experiences like make me the teacher that I am, right? And I wouldn't have changed it any other way. I think I would have told my past self to just be open to opportunities and experiences,
Yeah.
right? And not that I wasn't, right? But I would just like reinforce.
Yeah. Like I
Like
feel like I
it's
was gonna ask
yeah.
you like what tips do you have to like keep such an open mind to like so many
Yeah.
experiences?
Just if something is interesting and you like I did not I looking back to my high school self, I really like teaching high school was never ever in the cards, right? It was never there. Like I was always like, oh, I want to do research or maybe I'll be a vet, but I just did not see myself in a classroom
Yeah.
for a long time
Mhm.
until like I guess partway through grad school when I was like, well, maybe this isn't the path. Like I knew that that imagining myself in that like environment didn't make me happy at the time. And I was like, well, what are some other options? And I was thinking, what things make me happy? I like communicating science, right? What are other ways you can do? I was thinking, oh, you could do a science writer. Oh, you could do like all this other stuff. Um, I even volunteered at California Academy of Sciences for a little bit, and that didn't make me happy, right? So
Yeah.
just being open to things, and when something does interest you, go for it,
Mhm.
right? And I was thankful that education really was a spark, and then I just kind of went with it,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
So,
Mhm.
and I guess there were times of uncertainty,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Where I was like, I don't know if this is what I want to do. And that's totally okay. I
Mhm.
guess I would reassure other, students that there will be times of uncertainty, and
Mhm.
that doesn't mean you've done anything wrong. It just means that maybe you need to try something new,
Yeah.
right? And who knows if that new thing you try turns out to be the most awesome thing that kind of changes your trajectory.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's the advice I would give.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's super powerful. And I definitely agree with that a lot. Like, I don't know if you've seen, but like with a lot of the work in Ask with the Career Connections
Hmm.
committee, like that stemmed from like me and like all the leads, some leads noticing that like Crystal students have such like a linear trajectory or a
Yeah.
minded
Mhm.
path for opportunities. Sorry, there's like a leaf blower going on and like
I can't hear it, so.
very loud on my end. But and yeah, I think that's definitely something super important for high schoolers as a whole to hear, especially as
Mhm.
they're like underclassmen for sure. Because like looking back,
Mhm.
it's good because I'm going into senior year now. But like, oh my God, sorry, it's so loud. But it's like I wish I could have, because I feel like from ninth grade, I was very set. Like I wanted to do,
Mhm.
I knew I liked biology. So I told myself, okay, I'm not going to do anything else. Like I wish I got to
Mhm.
try so many like mock trial, model, like all that stuff
Mhm.
that I kind of just told myself, hey, like I'm not going to do. And I feel like that's a super, like what you said is super important for
Mhm.
like high schoolers to hear, like just like try
Mhm.
everything. Because that's the
And
only,
just Yeah, and that's not limited to just career. Like I know we've been talking about career a lot, but in keeping your eyes open to like people you want to be with, right? Your friends, like just trying to hobbies have become so important to me lately, you know?
Uh-huh.
Um,
You're probably one
it's
of
just
the people with like the most interesting, unique hobbies I know. Like origami, like on set. And when I was doing my research on you, I saw, did you like judge on a beta fish?
Oh, I did. Yeah, yeah. I got my international judging certification. Yeah.
That's so cool. I personally have like childhood trauma with beta fish. I
Oh no.
don't know that, but I think that's so cool. Like another thing Miss Susan's like super good at. Like that's
Yeah. That was a fun period of my life. I was breeding fish and
oh my God.
judging them. And yeah, it's kind of like like the Westminster Dog Show, but with fish.
Whoa.
Just like and like very short generation. And again, yet another expression of biology, right? Like the Punnett square actually works. When you're working with, you can literally count all the fish in a
You have
particular
like bait
spawn.
with like a bunch of fish or like
Oh
how
yeah.
really I
So
thought do they attack each other? I thought beta
not as babies, no.
not as big.
They grow into it. So when the males start becoming aggressive and territorial, you start picking them out, and
Wow.
then you like put them in their own little jars, and then they become like their full selves, right? But yeah, so as babies, like one spawn, right? So one pair, male and female bettas, could end up anywhere between 50 to 500 babies,
Oh
right? And so
my
you have like a big tank with all these babies, and
God.
you're like picking and choosing. And I'm telling you, the Punnett square actually works.
Oh,
Like there
like
was one night in grad school, we had a take home final, okay? Or it might have been a midterm, but whatever it was 20 pages long, and I did not want to do it. So instead of doing that, I created like this, I did a bunch of research on beta genetics and like figured out the 3-year plan to
oh
create this new variation of beta. And I actually did do it. Like it took me about 3 years to like breed this particular beta. Um, but it all was from that one night of planning when I should have been doing my genetics test.
I love that. I feel like we could have a whole podcast conversation about like all your hobbies because I feel like so many and you're like so good at all of them. Absolutely insane. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, but so again, um, be open to everything,
Yeah.
right? Like not just super laser focus on your career, and yes, it's a really big part of who you are, but also like what makes you happy,
Fun thing.
right?
Yeah, for sure.
Who are the people that you love being around? Make sure you make time for them, that kind of stuff.
Like definitely like touching on that. Like I feel like often it's important to realize how or like to realize that like you only get to go through high school once. Like you should do the
Exactly.
process. Like I've been talking with so many friends about this, but it's kind of like talking about senior year and like going into the
Hmm.
semester being so stressful and we were saying how like we actually wanted to enjoy it. And I feel like even with this whole like looming thing of college apps, it's like a lot of it is just like who you surround yourself with. Like you can yourself with people who like actually help you enjoy high school, like don't stress
Hmm.
you out. Or you could surround yourself with people who are constantly just like talking about topics that are like so stressful because and it's really just like the amount that can affect your mental health and like the amount of stress or like your ability to actually relax and enjoy high school. Like
Hmm.
that has so much impact on. That's just something I've learned throughout. I
Yeah.
everything. Yeah.
It's a difficult balancing act for sure. But,
Yeah, and I'm not
like,
saying like cut people out of your life that
no, 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 no.
that,
Just like
like
find a way to
like set
ah,
boundaries for yourself.
yes,
Be
set
like,
boundaries. There you
I
go.
feel
I
like
was about to say
that's
compartmentalize, but that has a negative context in this case. But yeah,
yeah, like
setting
definitely
boundaries.
I think I've gotten better at junior year, just being like, hey, like, can we not talk about how many times I've taken the SAT? Like, that's something I want to talk about. Yeah, because it's
Yeah.
not the people, it's more of just like the topics. Yeah, sorry, that was another.
Yeah, no, it's the environment, and it's hard to get away from, it's hard to get away from. And I mean, the friends you make in high school, they have, when I got married recently, like my high school friends were the ones that were there,
Oh yeah,
like,
so there was
you
one that
know,
flew in from New Zealand.
yes, exactly. They were the ones that, were there from dusk till dawn, helping me get ready. Like I'm freaking out about my dress, like all this stuff. And my high school friends were the ones that were, the ones that made it a really special day.
Mhm.
So,
That's so sweet. Okay,
yeah.
so thank you so much, Miss Souza, for taking the time
Mhm.
to speak with me. Okay, so I hope you all enjoyed my conversation with Miss Souza. A huge thank you again to Miss Souza for taking the time to speak with me, and thank you to you all for listening. I'll see you guys next time.